All right, what's your thoughts, Steve? Should Christians be speaking out against homosexuality?
Should Christians be speaking out homosexuality? That depends on what we would call speaking out against it. Homosexuality has become a politicized concept now because there are campaigns for, new rights and new legislation to help support the homosexual in their to normalize and mainstream the homosexual lifestyle. I don't think that mainstreaming the homosexual lifestyle is something that Christians should encourage, just because I don't think we should mainstream any sinful lifestyle. I don't think we should mainstream, adultery or fornication. I mean, those things do happen. People do commit those sins. And it's not our place to be condemning them, because Paul said we don't condemn those who are outside the church. We're supposed to judge those who are inside the church. In that sense, because we do have the duty to disciple those who are inside the church and discipline the church, if there's homosexuality being practiced in the church, it should be addressed exactly the same as any other fornication should be. Paul said that if anyone claims to be a brother and is a fornicator, then you need to, of course, address that. And he talks about church discipline. Jesus talks about church discipline. But we are not called to discipline the world. We're not supposed to discipline those outside the church. So the church really needs to address sin in its own ranks, and there's plenty of it. There's divorce, there's plenty of fornication, there is homosexuality in the church, and any kind of sinful behavior the church should speak to its own membership about, first of all. Now, of course, that doesn't mean we have to be silent about the subject outside the church, but we have to realize what our role is and our role is not with reference to the unbelievers. God hasn't given us the role of sanctifying the lost people or civilizing the unbelieving world. We're here to make people into Christians, make disciples out of them. And you don't make a person into a Christian by condemning their behavior and leaving it at that. Certainly not by legislating against their behavior. We believe that drunkenness is a sin. It's not a lifestyle that Christians would support. And if somebody in the church is a drunkard, Paul said that's a disciplinable offense. But outside the church, I don't believe that we're going to make laws or should make laws against the use of alcohol. Prohibition didn't work very well. There's largely people with Christian convictions trying to impose them by law on those who didn't have them. And you just can't make a sinner sanctified through law. God tried that with the law of Moses. The best laws any nation ever had were a miserable failure in sanctifying people. Great laws, but they didn't make people better because their hearts weren't better. So I don't think the church is on the right track if it's going out and trying to address the homosexual community and condemn them and say we're going to make some laws to put you back in your closet again. I don't think that's what the church is to do. When it comes to us speaking about moral issues in general, I think that we do have a position about sexuality. That position has relationship to homosexuality, adultery, fornication, marriage, divorce. I believe that there is a normative sexuality that Christians stand for and should promote. We should promote normal sexuality. But I don't think we should single out any particular sexual abnormality to be the main target for our criticism. But as far as I'm concerned, all sexual immorality in the church needs to be addressed because people need to be taught to obey Christ if they're in the church. So I do believe we should speak out against sin in the church because the church is supposed to be following Christ. The church is made up of people who are committed to follow Christ, at least profess to be, and therefore their feet can be held to the fire to uphold a righteousness, a level of holiness that the Bible prescribes for Christians. But we can't expect non-Christians to be holy. And when it comes to deciding whether marriage will be defined as same-sex or heterosexual, I think there's every reason why Christians should go ahead and vote along the lines of what they know to be right, which is, of course, that marriage is heterosexual. It's not same-sex. Same-sex unions, there might be some name that can be used for them, but it's not really marriage. And to redefine marriage is not going to be advantageous. So I think Christians can, without taking the posture of condemning those who are in bondage to a homosexual lifestyle, and who probably can't help themselves without God, I think we can nonetheless say, well, listen, without condemning you, we still want to uphold the traditional view of marriage because it is something that God defined, and we stand for God and His Word.